You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
Welcome to this episode of The Whole Truth podcast. I'm Paul Armstrong. We just finished a fantastic day here at the Resources Rising Stars Investor Conference in Sydney. Some great presentations. One of those presentations came from Andean Silver. Tim Laneyrie, the Chief Executive, told investors all about the company's growth outlook, how the stock has gone from 20 cents to over $1 in a year. It's been virtually exactly a year since this company bought the Cerro Bayo Silver Project in Chile, and what fantastic results they've generated in that time. Tim joins us on this episode of the Whole Truth podcast to explain to us why he thinks the next 12 months will be as good or better than the past 12 months. Welcome to this episode of the Whole Truth podcast. Great work today. Fantastic over the past 12 months what you've achieved. Take us through what's happened since you announced the acquisition of this unknown silver project over in Chile.
Well, thank you. No, it's good to actually be here in Sydney at the time, but it's been a rapid year that we've had. As I said, it's been a whirlwind year, in fact. So we've started the project, we acquired it. I said literally a year today. We probably have, had only 25 million ounce resource. We had no teams on the ground at the time. So in that year since we've had the project, we've rapidly increased the team ninefold on the ground. We've gone from having 0 drill rigs to 3 drill rigs on the ground at the moment. We've just commenced one of the largest geophysics campaigns that's ever been done on the project. What else? We have raised significant capital to support that in that short period of time. We've made 3 new major discoveries, and at the same time, we've increased our corporate team remarkably with a lot of heavy hitters.
Now, it's worth pointing out here that you raised the money for the project acquisition at 20 cents. The stock tore through the year, I think cracking $1.50 briefly at one stage. It's pulled back with the gold and silver price a bit, around about $1 or so now. But that share price increase, Tim, came on the back of some pretty substantial resource increases. Now, you've been putting out great drilling results, but the resource increases haven't come as a result of the drilling yet, have they?
No. At the moment, we're just leveraging what has been in the ground. The 900,000 metres has been drilled historically over the past 35 years on the ground.
So what did you do? You got the drilling data that you inherited through the acquisition and reshaped it?
Yeah, so effectively, it's not lowering cutoffs, it's not doing anything like that. It's effectively the sheer amount of drilling that's put in that project area, and that has not been included in resources over that time for various factors. So we haven't actually put any of our own drilling into that project yet.
So you've taken it from 25 million ounces of silver equivalent through to 91 million ounces, but none of that includes these bonanza results you've been putting out.
No, and that's what we saw in when we did the due diligence, that there was so much information that still had to be included and worked out for this project, and that was the real benefit of us acquiring it. It was an advanced project, not a typical exploration.
So
project.
All these results you've been spitting out over the recent months, when will they be reflected in a resource announcement?
So we're planning to do a resource announcement in that late Q1 period next year, so around that March period. So that will be our very first maiden resource. That'll include all the drilling that we've done this previous year, which will cover our Pegaso 7 and Cristal deposit areas.
So as you bring that into the resource model, you're also drilling, as you said, you've got 3 rigs on the go. So you mentioned a couple of names there. It's worth taking people through that. I mean, Pegaso 7 and Cristal are 2 areas that you've now identified extensive mineralisation and veins. Are they going to drive so much of your news flow over the next 12 months?
Yes, we've had the rigs drilling at Pegaso 7 since we've had the project, and our second rig has been drilling at Cristal for at least about 3 months. So right now we're in the final stages of the initial program. As I said, Pegaso 7, we started with a scout program of probably about 5 holes, and has rapidly expanded to about 20 to 25 holes. So that's the belief that we have in that project, that it's going to be the next resource in the books. So they'll be winding up in that early part of Q1 to then move into the resource estimation phase. Yeah, and then those rigs will be moving to the next phase of growth.
So you've got some very low-hanging fruit there to drive it. Today's presentation made it pretty clear that even beyond Pegaso 7 and Cristal, there's other areas that haven't been touched.
No, that's it. This is just the first of many projects. One of the things we have is actually trying to rationalise our targets and get the best high quality targets, because they're all high quality targets in our book. So we've just touched on those first, and then we're moving into the main areas where the resources are currently sitting, and it's starting to extend them down below the current levels.
So the obvious question is, yes, you've gone to 3 rigs, but given how many opportunities you've got, why don't you go to 5, 6, 7 rigs?
We're moving to 4 rigs next year. So before the end of the financial year, we're going to have a 4th rig on the ground to support our drilling. So at that point, we're going to have a completed geophysical campaign across the area, which will then look at all the wider greenfields targeting across the project. So at that point, then we'll probably look at increasing the rigs to actually do more greenfields and have 4 rigs designated on brownfields targets.
Right, so there's a pipeline here of ongoing growth.
There's an exceptional pipeline.
Do you see any limitation on the growth in the resource?
No, not at the present time. For us, all the targets have not been historically tested over the last 30 years to the extent that they should have been.
Now, there is a plant on site that you inherited as part of the acquisition. What's your thoughts about utilising it?
So the plant itself is on warm idle, so that means that we actually turn it over, flush all the pipes every 2 weeks to keep it ready to go. We have 2 years worth of critical spares to support the operation of that plant. We can turn that plant on in its current form whenever we want to, but the aim of the game is don't let the scale of the plant, which is 500,000 tonnes, guide the final numbers. We're going to let the resource, when we find that out at the end of the day with all the drilling, guide what size the plant is. So we won't hesitate to upgrade that plant to support an expanded resource.
So are economic studies on the cards here, or is it just about drill and more drill?
I think it'll be a multi-pronged approach. So we'll do what we have done through all the other projects where we want to know what that resource is. There'll be a lot of expanded resource drilling, but at the same time in the background, we have a very experienced team. We have a general manager who worked with Asenco, who knows how to build operations, environmental manager who have done permitting in the past for major mining companies. So they'll work in the background looking at the permitting and the expanding piece while drilling. So it's going to be a 2-pronged approach where we will look at studies in the background.
Right. And have you had any interest in it? I mean, the upside is obviously huge, and the market cap is still pretty small. What's the market cap today?
150 million.
Right, so 150 million. Are you starting to attract some attention from potential parties?
Yeah, no, we're attracting quite a bit of attention as you would in this environment, the increasing silver and gold environment, so which is natural for quality projects. So, but our aim of the game is to actually figure out what this resource is above and beyond everything else. So our aim is to expand this resource and get it through to that scoping study phase in the near future.
Now, it's worth mentioning, of course, that one of the key drivers of the company is Steve Parsons. He's obviously got a great reputation. He's a driving force originally behind Bellevue Gold and now Firefly Metals. He's all over this.
Yeah, no, Steve is one of our major shareholders. So I think he's sitting at around 10% currently. So he's fully supportive of the team and the mine on the ground. So he's a big believer in what we have and just the whole overlaying silver, gold thematic in the current market. Silver
is widely tipped to be one of the hot metals of 2025. I see a lot of analysts have said it's heading for a sharp increase. It's currently trading about $30 US an ounce. I think a lot of the forecasts are up around 34, 35, some even up to 40 odd, the more bullish ones, on the back of the demand for silver in solar panels. Obviously the key ingredient. There's no substitute for it at the moment in silver panels because it's a very conductive metal. In fact, I have read the most conductive metal on the periodic table. So the outlook on that base would seem to be very strong. And if you can get an inventory of real scale, you'd have to think you may well be in someone's firing line.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's always the run. So yeah, as all these major companies, you buy on the down before it gets to the up. So, but as I said, yeah, our aim is to actually ride the silver market. I mean, it's only 50% of our revenue. The other 50% is gold. So we have 2 of the best commodities in the market. And yeah, that silver price goes to what a few of these analysts think it will, then it's going to be game on.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Great, Tim. Thanks very much for your time. You've earned that beer. I think we'll let you go and have that. And great presentation today. I think the company has had a remarkable 12 months. 20 cents to over $1. Nobody probably saw that coming a year ago. So let's hope the next 12 months will be as good or better.
That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
All right.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.